All right, First Samuel 7. Let's call this one Uncertainty and subtitle it If, as in verse 3. It will read, If you are returning to the Lord with all your heart, understanding that in the previous verse it is going to say that all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord, understanding. We said there had been this break in the relationship with God that characterized most of the period of Judges and now is carrying on into the lead in to the era of the kings, where Israel will accept God's help but not his counsel as to how they can stay out of trouble. And so, once again, they have put their hopes in a thing and not God, the true cause of their success. And he gave them a timeout from having the ark and essentially idolizing that. And he let the Philistines capture the ark. Well, the Philistines going too far and taking the ark as their own possession led them into trouble. And so now they've sent the ark back. And Israel, realizing that even when God restores you, it can be a cautionary blessing because they still have to handle the ark delicately. So when they get it back, they're actually going to have 70 men die for looking on the ark or handling it inappropriately. And they're going to be in an uncomfortable situation, even though they are approaching a more healthy relationship with God. They're still not there yet, so they're lamenting. But Samuel is going to ask the question, look, I can see that you're sad, but I need to know whether or not you are serious. Why? Because over and over again, Israel, much like the Philistines we're going to see in this chapter, they do a great job of crying out when they're miserable, but that crying doesn't really go any deeper than their relief, meaning neither Israel nor the Philistines are serious about fixing the character defects that are landing them right back in the same old predicaments. But it is going to look like they are at least serious about making a commitment now that Samuel has helped them see the difference between merely being sad and being serious about improving their condition. But understand this, at the point they decide that they are actually going to commit to being serious, that is the point at which the Philistines are no longer interested in seeing them actually get better. Why? Because they're making great slaves in their current condition. And so what's happening is the Philistines want them to have just enough Jesus for an encounter, like we said a few chapters back, but not for a real relationship that's characterized by them actually improving their condition long term. And so as the Philistines begin to see them actually take the steps that will lead to recovery, they step in and intervene to make sure they don't actually get better. So the Philistines begin to wage war at the point that Israel begins to heal, at which point they're going to ask Samuel, please don't stop crying out to the Lord for us because we fear the Philistines. And so Samuel continues to cry out, and God, seeing that they have actually made changes, intervenes on their behalf, defeats the Philistines, and it's going to say throughout Samuel's days, the Philistines were never a problem again. But that's not going to last, because once God delivers them from the Philistines, they are soon going to be confronted again with what we called first world problems, a term that I did not coin, but I love because it talks about the problems of privilege, which they are going to see in the next chapter as God delivers them from the Philistines. And now they got to decide, we're kind of bored with this peace thing. We want a king. And that's going to bring a whole new set of self-imposed problems. But as we often say, God's best to you as you go forward in him. God willing, learning to identify those who would rather you simply have an encounter with God rather than an experience with God that will provide you longevity and healing as you progress to reaching your potential in him.